Welcome back to Quintessence Virtual Retreat, Awakening Forgiveness. I am so thrilled to be joined here with Nicola Fernandes, soul coach and shaman. And just want to thank you for joining us to discuss how forgiveness can change and uplift our lives. And let's start with just taking a couple full body breaths together and really just getting in our body, fully arriving into this moment. And I'd just like to invite everyone to take a moment and just feel into what they would like to receive from this session together today, and just setting your own personal intention for our time together. And I'd also like to thank everyone for setting this time aside in their lives to do their own healing work. And we know that when we do our healing work, it has a ripple effect out into our families, our community, and our entire planet. And that being said, Nicola, could you kind of give us a little bit of what your work is about?
Sure. First of all, I'm so grateful to be here, and thank you so much, Maggie, for doing this. And I think forgiveness is so important, and this is just like hitting it right in the bullet point to start with forgiveness, your whole series. So what I do is really, I work on higher consciousness. I support visionaries to upgrade their DNA and energy field so they can really align with their soul to the sacred and powerful fifth dimension without any self-doubt or fear. What that means is I have a lot of groups, and we just up-level the consciousness through initiations, through group work, and really be in it, really practice mastery by becoming that higher consciousness.
Beautiful. Could you share with us a little bit about how a shaman sees forgiveness?
Yes, I would love to. A shaman, really, we look at the world in the 4 levels of creation. That's really where a shaman acquires mastery. And so I just want to explain it to you a little bit so you see better where forgiveness really fits for us. So the 4 levels are the physical, the mental, the mythic, and the energetic. And, you know, right? And in shamanism, at least the Peruvian shamanism that I studied from the Laikas in the Andes, it associated with the serpent, the jaguar, the hummingbird, and the eagle. And so what we say is, you know, to really work on forgiveness, you work on all levels, first of all, because health comes from all levels. It doesn't just come, you know, forgiveness is obviously in the mental, in the jaguar. You don't only work on that, you know, you need to work on the physical, right? Exercise, sleep, right eating. Even the mental is also, you know, letting go of limiting beliefs. And then the other practice is obviously forgiveness. And for us, it's always combined with gratitude, right? The true forgiveness is the big teaching that true forgiveness comes with when you really can forgive, you really let go. And that means you're actually grateful of that teaching. You're grateful of the gift that you got.
Because I'm fascinated by this. I'm not very versed in Peruvian shamanism. Could you link those kind of totem animals to the different realms for us? Like the serpent is the...
Oh, the serpent is the physical.
Is the physical, okay.
And we actually see it a lot in the first chakra. It's the first thing we start working on when you go to shaman school, or even if I work with a client, you know, or in a group. And it's actually with the south direction in the lineage that I learned with. And then the jaguar is the second, which, you know, second chakra, which is all the emotions, right? So it's the emotional mental, which is the west direction. Then the hummingbird is our power center, the third, which is the north. And we also see, even that it's the third chakra, that's where shamanism, it's not like linear. It's also the soul. That mythic is really the soul, right? And then the eagle is the east direction, and the energetic, which is also the spirit, right? And the heart.
It's okay. This is a funny personal side note. My daughter, who's 4, is very emotionally expressive. And she always is telling me, I'm a jaguar, mama. I mean, she's always a jaguar. Isn't that fascinating that somehow in her psyche, like I would say, yeah, most of the time when she's role playing, she's a jaguar. And so interesting that somehow that slipped. Anyways, just a side note, that slipped in her subconscious, or it's in her DNA, or it's, because she is a very, very emotional little creature. So we have these 4 different realms. And so can you tell us a little bit more about where forgiveness lies within these 4 realms?
Yes. So forgiveness is definitely with the mental emotional, with the jaguar. Yet, even that we practice forgiveness coupled with the gratitude as an opportunity to actually be grateful for a teaching. In shamanism, what we really, really practice is that everything comes from spirit. And so in shamanism, we work first with the energetic, and we see it then trickling down to all the other levels, which means, when you have a river, right, and you try to change the flow of a river right where it meets the sea, it's very hard, right? You would have to build a dam. I mean, it's big and it's powerful, right? But if you go up the mountains all the way into the high mountains, where it's just a tickle out of the mountain, you can just put a stone in front of it and it changes direction, right? And so that's a lot what we do in shamanism. We go all the way up to the energetic. And what that means is really changing your energy field, first of all, right? Because if you think about it, it's so much easier to change energetics than even to change your emotions. And all that will trickle down then even into the physical. So what we say is, to change that architecture of your energy by changing who you are in a different environment, right? Connecting more with nature, meditation, being in silence, being in still places, all that connects you with spirit and that energetic that makes you a different person. And then so much easier trickles down. And it doesn't mean you don't have to do the forgiveness practice, but it's so much easier when you are still, when you are connected, when you are one with creation.
Yeah, and one of the things I'm thinking as you're speaking is like, also where that water's coming from source, right? So it's also like when you follow that river up the mountain, you're going to source. And so when you go to source energy, you automatically get a different perspective.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I'm thinking of like, Maharishi would talk about different states of consciousness. And there's, and from unity consciousness or God consciousness, everything looks different, right? Because everyone now is actually an aspect of ourselves. Yes. And not from an egoic place, but from this place that we realize that we are actually spirit that has taken on different forms of embodiment. And so from this perspective of spirit, this person was just a messenger for me. This person. And from this place, we see that the people who have harmed us the most, not from a personal level, but from the place of spirit, right? From our soul, they are actually maybe some of the greatest gifts, like gift bearers that
Yes.
we'll have in our lifetime.
Yes.
And from this place of spirit, we can almost see like, wow, this person, and again, not from the personal level, but from this high place of unity consciousness, we see like, wow, this person actually did a sacrifice, did harm me, right? So that I could become more whole, if that makes sense.
Yes.
But when we're in our personal, it's very hard, to see. And this doesn't mean that then we change how we view this person, maybe in terms of our boundaries that we set with this person. But it can help us, again, have this gratitude for the role that they're playing in our lives and helping us to break down these kinds of, I see every time someone's hurt me, it actually was showing me a place that I was already disconnected from source.
Yeah.
And so this person was actually like highlighting for me where I needed to heal on a deeper level.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm curious, from a shamanic perspective, what is important? What's really most important about forgiveness?
It's those two things, that you always couple it with gratitude, right? That true forgiveness really is always, you only are really forgiving when you are in gratitude of that person or what happened or the event, right? And at the same time, that energetic piece, which is exactly that unity that you're talking about, right? Because when you are in Jaguar, all the emotions are roaring. It's very, very challenging to be then in forgiveness, right? But if you go into that energetic, which is that separation, which is that bigger picture, which is that stillness, right? And nature and calmness and oneness, right? It's so much more accessible than the Jaguar.
Yeah. And so are there ways that we work with the Jaguar, or how do we, that's what's coming. Yeah. So how do we work with the Jaguar? Please help me with my daughter.
Yes. I'm so excited because I wanted to share with you two really, really powerful and very simple tools. And one of them I want to just describe to you, but the second one I actually want to do it with you, if that's okay.
Perfect. Yeah. Perfect.
So the first one is really that the elements of this planet transform, and one of the most powerful transformers is fire. And so what we do is, the shamans, obviously in the Andes, they make a real fire, but nowadays we city shamans, what we do is we just use a candle. So everybody can do that, right? Just have a candle lighted in front of you and use either toothpicks or matches. And with your breath, you just blow in all that stuff, all that emotion, like this. Just with your intention, you take with your in-breath, pull it up, blow it in the toothpick, and you actually put it into the fire. And what we say, the fire transforms. And then after it's burned, what you actually do is you go over the light with your hands like this to gather that new light, that transformed light, and bring it into your heart.
Okay, that sounds wonderful. Will you share with us just one more time, like briefly, so that everyone really can anchor it in?
Okay, so you have a candle in front of you with toothpicks or matches. And just take one and you blow all this emotion in, letting it all go. Just trusting whatever that day can go, goes in. And you put it in the fire, let it burn, right? And then you don't have to worry about the ashes. They can fall, they can stay in the candle. Doesn't matter, because the intention always overrides the action, right? So, and then you go over the candle and just bring that light into you.
Good. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful.
So
what a nice.
It's so simple and it's so powerful. And, in the beginning, I think the first couple of years I did it every single day.
Yeah, because what a beautiful ritual of just clearing and transmuting.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And it's so easy. You can even have a candle ready to go all the time, you know?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, to just really set that in space aside for yourself.
Yes. Yes.
And then that could also be like a physical way to remember and to kind of, you know, trigger ourselves into like thinking, oh, do I have some things I need to transmute?
Yeah.
You know, because sometimes it's funny how we go about our lives and these things can just be background clutter for us.
Yes.
And sometimes it can take a physical something in our space. Like I like to burn frankincense, and so I have a little rose quartz that I put the charcoal on, and sometimes it's literally that stone that reminds me, oh, I need to burn some frankincense because my house is feeling a little bit heavy, you know, or something needs to be transmuted. So I like that idea of just having something that's kind of dedicated to this ritual in your space to give you that trigger of like remembering that you have this tool and to use it, you know? And sometimes I can even feel my mind like, oh, do you really need to burn frankincense right now? And, you know, I can get in that space because, you know, it takes a little bit of time, right? To do it all. And then, but because I have that physical representation in my space, it like brings up like, no, it's going to feel so good. If you burn the frankincense, you're going to feel like you're just going to elevate your experience. And so I really like this idea. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. You know what I always recommend is if you haven't done it all day, to promise yourself you do it before you go to sleep. Because when you let go before sleep, right, you have such a more rejuvenating sleep than taking all those emotions with you into working in the unconscious in your dreams, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah. And then the other exercise you were going to share with us.
So I want you to just make yourself comfortable.
Okay.
Let's take a deep breath through the nose, blow out through the mouth. Feel your feet, the soles of your feet on the ground. And then close your eyes. And what I want you to do is put both of your hands on your heart. Take another deep breath in and breathe out. And what this does is this really resets our fight, flight, and freeze system. So really sinking into your heart and start feeling that physical heartbeat in your heart. And if you don't feel it right away, just imagine it, how your heart is beating. It's beating for sure, I can guarantee it. And once you feel that, I want you to actually imagine that there's also a heartbeat of the planet. You know, the planet, Mother Earth, is alive, and she has a heartbeat. And for now, just imagine that you actually can feel that heartbeat as well. And as you feel that, or imagine it, I want you to align the two heartbeats so they beat at the same rhythm. And that might mean that your heartbeat needs to slow down a little. Just take some deep breath in and allow yourself to slow down your own heartbeat, to just be in harmony. Have your intention to be in harmony with Mother Earth. And it's a lot about allowing, just giving yourself permission. This is possible. You can slow down that much. And I want you just to make that decision. So it is that you really feel that you are in harmony with Mother Earth. Both hearts beat at the same rhythm. And from that place, I want you to take the hand on top and put it on your belly, like an inch below your navel. And that's where the jaguar resides. And I want you to imagine that this is the third point that can beat at that same speed as Mother Earth. So they are all, the three of them are in the same rhythm. And as you have that intention, what I want you to imagine is that, you know, the emotions, the jaguar is like up a tree. It got scared, right? And what we're doing by bringing it in the rhythm of the heartbeat of the mother is calling it down from the tree, calling down from those emotions, calling down those emotions and saying, it's all good, you're safe. Come into my heart and you're all safe there. I know what happened. I saw it. And now you're safe. You're all safe. Come into my heart. Come into my heart and be safe with me. And just feel or imagine how the jaguar comes down the tree, knowing that now all is good because he has been seen. He has been validated. And it's all safe now because he is held by the mother who never left him, Mother Earth. And so they're all coming together in harmony in the heart. Deep breath in and out. And so it is, just resting in that place. And you always can stay here longer for our purposes, you know. I think we need to continue, but you can stay here at least 15 minutes. You might even rewind the recording and listen to it again.
Wow. Yeah. Because it's reminding me of how, you know, so when we feel offended, we go into anger first, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as we know, the underlying emotion from anger is actually fear. And so in this way, when we bring ourselves back from that place of fear, we can then more fully, from a heart-centered place, look at what has occurred and how we can forgive and make things right, you know, within ourselves.
Yeah.
You know?
And this whole, it's actually called decoupling. That's just a name, right? That my teacher gave it. But it's really resetting your whole nervous system. It's, you know, it's more than a lot of practices that just bring you to the heart. This is so much more. This is really resetting you on a DNA and physical level.
Yeah. Yeah. And at the level of our biorhythms.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly, right?
Because when I was really tapping into with the heartbeat and the heartbeat of the earth, is that also affects our cerebral spinal fluid.
Exactly, right?
Right, which is what's nourishing all of our nerve endings in our spine. And just when we are able to sink into that deeper place of, you know, kind of sympathetic, or just that place of deep nurturing energy, right?
Yes.
Then we're able to really look at our lives from a different perspective,
Yes.
and from wholeness, and from a place where we realize we were never harmed,
Mm-hmm.
right? One of my teachers of Moira Kuan Yin, she used to say, there's nothing wrong, there's just an ego in defense of itself. And I know for some things that can feel very, you know, trivial. And I know for some things that doesn't always work. But for a lot of things, it's true. It's just, you know, it's just our ego trying to protect ourselves, trying to make the other person wrong, right? When in reality, they're just existing and we're just existing. And it's all okay. Right? At that level of unity consciousness, it's all okay, right?
And at the same time, you know, all these teachings are so head-centered because your adult self, your conscious, understands it, right? But what we say, you know, where the inner child, your younger self really rests is in the belly, and that younger self still feels alone, right? And that's why I like this, you know, any exercises, any experiences that really connect you and make you shift, because even if you otherwise consciously understand it, you know, oh, just let the ego go, you know, how do I do it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and okay, this is probably obvious for everyone else, but I just had an aha of like, when we're tuning into our heartbeat and then the heartbeat of the earth, it's also us tuning into our mother, right? And
Exactly.
tuning into that mother that is maybe in some ways able to hold a greater wisdom and consciousness than our earthly mother was able to, for whatever reason.
Exactly.
And to feel that holding, that deep holding that we all, you know, yearn for. You know, a lot of times when my daughter comes home, you know, I'm trying to like get her a snack or figure out, you know, is she hungry? Is she, you know, what do we need to do to get her into a place where she can transition, right, and ground into her new place of being home. And, you know, so many times she's like, Mama, I just want you to come sit with me. Just come sit with me, Mama, you know? And I realize how much just her listening to my heartbeat, right, is medicine for her, because it's the first thing that she experienced after being conceived was my heartbeat. And so us listening, tuning into the heartbeat of the earth is that same, a way for us to give us that same energy without all of those, you know, conditions and things that we put on our earthly mothers, you know.
Yeah. You know, that's actually the tradition in the Andes, you know, the 10 to 12-year-old shaman boys and girls, they leave their mothers and get reconnected to Mother Earth, the one that never left them, right? Really
Yeah.
knowing that that mother is always there and will always be there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so important in these times that we're on in our evolution as human beings, because we often think that our survival is more linked to our bank account, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Than it is linked to just feeling like we evolved with this planet, we evolved from this planet, and we are humans like because of Mother Earth. Like we couldn't really be humans on any other planet, right?
Yes.
And so how have we mentally disconnected from our Mother Earth? And so to really reconnect at that biorhythmic level to the earth and feel held and supported, right? It's really good stuff, Nicola. So
I want to add one more thing, you know, just with the virus right now, I feel like Mother Earth is again showing us so much that she's there for us, because, you know, with the virus, you are avoiding people, you're avoiding stores, but you don't have to avoid nature at all. Everything in nature is
Right?
safe. Is that so crazy?
Right? Right? Like everything's off limits except for nature. I mean, some places nature's off limits, but actually here I have a power spot I've been going to in the woods, and this is a quick story about this. And one night, the governor here in California was going to close all state parks, and the place I've been, I kind of will walk a place for a while until spirit moves me to another place, and I form a very intimate relationship with this place because I talk to nature as I'm walking, and it becomes this very intimate. And I was having like, oh no, you can't take my place right now. Like I'm not ready to move on. And it became a very visceral thing. And I kind of texted a friend and was like, oh, they can't do this, you know, and it was late. It was like 10 o'clock at night when this memo leaked and everything. And I was like, we got to block this. Right. And so the governor ended up doing something different, but our local sheriff came out and said, I will not support the governor in this decision because I believe it's unconstitutional to keep people from nature.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, because we deserve to have that. And we know being in nature is one of the most healing. And also nature is so forgiving. Right? Nature is so forgiving. Yeah.
All the changes 2 weeks, right? All the changes that people suddenly were talking about, that dolphins in Italy and, you know, the nicest sky in China and whatnot. 2 weeks, right?
Yeah. Penguins in Cape Town and yeah. So I'm curious, Nicola, what do you think has been some of your greatest challenges with forgiveness?
You know, my greatest challenge is really to just accept others who they are. To, you know, because when you study so much consciousness, you have so much wisdom, and you can easily feel or know or, you know, see where somebody could go. And it's like this one step, right? And it's like almost like I'm like, why aren't you going there, right? I'm like impatient. And it's really like practicing that forgiveness, that who knows, that one little step that I see for them, they might never make that lifetime. And really practice, you know, forgiveness in the sense that I accept others where they are and their choices, and really not, you know, because that's the ego part again, not wanting to be right? Oh, I know better, right? What do I know, right? So yeah, that's my biggest, you know, when you have so much knowledge, right? Finally you have all this knowledge, and then you know, people might not want it.
Yeah. And Nicola, would you be willing to share with us like one of the greatest life lessons you've had or stories with forgiveness?
Yeah, it's really about, you know, I had so much, and I realize now it's like a lack of self-worth. I had so much anger at myself. That was always like, you know, because I have an amazing life. I always had an amazing life. I guess I was always a great manifestor and creator in my life. But I was always like thinking, why do I have all this? You know, like just this lack of self-worth. And yeah, and this anger, really what I realized is going back to all my younger selves and forgiving her. Now that for me, it wasn't like other people, because I always felt like, how come even I have such an amazing person in my life, right? It was really me trying to sabotage it to prove myself that I wasn't worth it, right? And so to this day, I still have to do that practice sometimes, where I go back to her and just forgive her for making those choices. And that true forgiveness again, where I'm like in gratitude that she made that choice, because I learned from it, right? But it was a big one. For years, I could not get out of that anger on myself.
Fascinating, right? Because we all think we want this amazing life, right? and that this amazing life is going to like be the cure-all, right? And then oftentimes when we have that, we realize, no, it's always just really our relationship to spirit and source, and feeling like whatever source is giving us is divinely inspired, or is divinely willed, the will of the divine, or, you know. And I know sometimes if people are in a very challenging position, you also can look at your own personal beliefs, because sometimes you're forming these beliefs to hold out the blessings, you know.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it can be hard. It's like almost seeing the reflection in the mirror, and you're so beautiful that you can't accept how beautiful you are, is what, you know.
For me, you know, like years ago, one of my teachers had taught me, you know, like it's like God giving me flowers. You know, if somebody gives you flowers, you wouldn't say, oh, I don't want it. You would say thank you and put them in a vase. And that's what God is giving me, all these gifts, not for me to question that I got it, right? But it you know, even that she, even when it's again this like, you know, brainy knowledge, right? Consciousness, to really live it and really get it, it took me a while.
And Nicola, just in kind of wrapping up our discussion, could you share with us a little bit about why you think forgiveness is part of the path to being whole?
Yes, I think, you know, when you couple that, when you have that true forgiveness, when you couple it with gratitude, right? There is something, because gratitude has such a high vibration, it really starts speaking to the soul, right? So when you say thank you for giving me this gift, thank you for giving me this teaching, right? You know, not only do I forgive you, but thank you for teaching me, right? Whatever happened, you speak to your own soul, and that makes you whole, right? Because the ego can't grasp why you would think something that happened, right? But if you're really thankful, then it's the soul, and so it makes you whole.
Yeah, and something that's coming to mind that's really interesting that's coming to mind for me is like this idea that sometimes the things that happen to us were actually protecting us from other things to happen. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm thinking in my life of sexual abuse and how that affected me. And when one of the gifts I know that I got from the sexual abuse is that it made me very self-protected sexually. And so I often think like, whoa, even though I had this experience that consumed a lot of my time on this planet, but it also was a doorway, an opening of consciousness for me. And so maybe if that hadn't happened, I would just have had, you know, many partners and be, you know, and so we never know exactly what, sometimes these things are actually lessons to help keep us on our divine path, if that makes sense.
Totally.
And so thank you so much, Nicola, for this conversation.
You are so welcome.
I really appreciate your deep awareness and level of presence. And I'd love to take just a couple integrative breaths together, and to just send this conversation out to the universe so that it's in the ethers for everyone to receive.
May I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Yes, because I you know, I was looking through stories I have, and one of them so beautiful shows that flow of the in and out, how, you know, forgiveness is giving away, and therefore the best comes back to you. Can I share that story with you?
Please. Yes.
It's very short, but it's very beautiful.
Okay.
It says, once there was a pond and a river. One day the pond asked the river, why do you give all the water to the ocean? It doesn't care a whit about you, and you are wasting your wealth. Silently the river flowed on, but the pond kept on. Listen, said the pond, even with all your water. You can't make the ocean one bit less salty. You should keep your treasures to yourself. At this, the river replied, I can't help it, my friend. It's my nature to give. And so the river continued to pour itself into the ocean, while the pond held on to all its water. As time passed, the miserly pond began to stagnate. All life in it eventually died, and finally it became completely dried up. The river, however, flowed onto the ocean, where invisibly the surface waters evaporated. Gentle winds gathered the moisture in clouds and carried it back to the mountains, where it fell again as rain, feeding the river and keeping its waters fresh and pure forever.
Beautiful. Thank you for this.
You're so welcome.
So yeah, let's just breathe into that. Let's just breathe into that couple breaths. And I'd just like to close by saying, may all beings everywhere be happy and free. And may our thoughts, words, and actions contribute to the happiness and freedom of all beings everywhere. And thank you so much, Nicola.
You're so welcome. And may everybody enjoy the flow of the river.
Yes, and the grace. Yes.
Beautiful, Maggie. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nicola.
Love you.